Hey, and welcome to futurethinkers.org, a podcast about the evolution of technology, society, and consciousness. I'm Mike Gilliland.
And I'm Yuvia Ivanova. If you're new to the show and you want to get a list of our favorite books, popular episodes, and to join our community, go to futurethinkers.org/start. Hey guys, Happy New Year! Welcome back to Future Thinkers podcast. We kick off this year by interviewing Duncan Trussell for the second time. In this episode, we talk about developing individual and collective consciousness, the structure of a humane society, and the importance of a consistent spiritual practice.
You can find the show notes for this episode at futurethinkers.org/83 or under the video if you're watching on YouTube.
A quick announcement before we start. Mike and I are working on designing some courses, and we'd like to get feedback from you guys on what you'd like to learn from us. So go to futurethinkers.org/courses and fill out our quick survey. It'll really help us out. Enjoy the episode.
So how have you been? This is the first time we're actually seeing you face to face.
I've been busy on a project that I am not allowed to talk about, and so just neck deep in something really wonderful. And I have a baby coming.
Yeah, we heard.
Congrats.
Thank you.
So
I've been really good. Yeah, it's very exciting. It's really cool. I'm feeling quite human these days. It's a nice feeling.
Full-grown adult.
Yeah. Hopefully not full grown. I keep hoping I'll get a couple of inches. I'd like to pass that 5'9", almost to 6 feet, but not quite. With the scoliosis, I think I'm shrinking. I think you shrink when you get older. It's weird.
Yeah, you do.
Well, maybe the Chinese will invent some sort of advanced spine stretching technology. I hear they're working on that. For reals, actually.
Are you kidding? Really?
Yeah, that's a thing.
Sounds dangerous.
I know.
Sounds something like something you wouldn't want to do. Chinese spine stretching technology. Chinese spine stretching farms where they just people from all over the world come and get their spines stretched. The pain is extracted and put into their Bitcoin servers to simultaneously mine Bitcoin. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
What else is new?
What else is new?
What's this thing you're doing in Adobe Character Designer?
Well, so I recently upgraded my studio, and I've got a lot of new equipment, including a really nice computer now. And I'm just figuring out all the things it could do. Originally, I just wanted to have a nice computer so that I could edit and upload my podcast without any kind of technological hindrances. But now I'm realizing I haven't had a new computer since 2015. So it's just, holy shit, technology has just leapt forward since I was piddling around on my crappy laptop. And so I'm starting to realize all the things that I can do when it comes to streaming and when it comes to video. And so I've been learning how to, a character animator lets you simultaneously animate a cartoon and stream it live, and it looks pretty good. It looks amazing. I mean, it's incredible, and it's AI somehow. It's AI face tracking, the same stuff they use on Instagram.
Oh,
I gotta check this out.
Oh, you guys would love it. I was trying to figure out if I could get it into this. If I could go into Zoom as a cartoon character, which I thought would be pretty funny, but I don't think I can. It appears that this is not a possibility, unfortunately.
Huh.
But in some other, because it's let's see, some things allow it, some things don't. It's, this would have to be more like a Twitch setup or something, or I'd have to figure out a way to plug it into.
It would probably need a plugin, wouldn't it, into Twitch or something?
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm already using this software called Wirecast, and so there'd have to be some merger of Wirecast and Zoom, which probably won't happen because Wirecast has its own live streaming service. So whatever, no big deal. I don't mind being a meat puppet for the show. It just, you feel more comfortable when you're a little cartoon person.
Yeah, that's right.
It's for all the millennials who have terrible anxiety constantly.
Yes. Is that, do the millennials have anxiety? I didn't hear about this. When did this start?
Yeah, well, I guess as soon as they started becoming adults, but yeah, I think they have the highest prevalence of anxiety out of any generation.
What is anxiety? Do you get anxious?
Sometimes. Yeah,
What
it's
is it? What
like
do you think it is?
it's like a feeling of that, just like you're not quite comfortable in your skin, like something's gonna go wrong, or you're gonna say the wrong thing, or you're just like uncomfortable constantly.
I think it's because they don't get as much opportunity to actually like practice being social in meet space.
Yeah, they didn't get socialized properly.
Oh, do you think that's what it is?
Yeah,
I think
it's
so.
all the
You think there's
phone.
been a mistake with the millennials?
I think so. The lost generation.
Are they? That's so funny. Wait, what generation are you guys?
We are
Millennials.
millennials.
Oh, I was gonna say, when you fucking Christ, you sound like every generation that's right before a new generation. Like, well, I'm the one who's supposed to be saying you guys are lost. You
You're
guys
right.
are saying
Yeah.
I'm sticking up for you. You're not lost. I think the problem is that maybe you're more in the truth. And one of the aspects of truth is the realization of being lost, you know. It's like that maybe that's the differentiating factor, is that in other generations there was this kind of insane idea that they knew what they were doing, that they weren't lost, you know, and look at what that did. That's
you
not
know,
great.
I've been watching a lot of Jordan Peterson, and he's a really fascinating guy, and he talks about this generation being so easily jumping into different ideologies like Marxism and communism and this kind of thing, and like wanting to socialize everything and
Mm.
create equality of outcome rather than equality of opportunity. But I really feel like sometimes he doesn't connect with actually what their experience is, which is they're just kids. In a lot of ways, they're just kids experimenting with new ideas and jumping onto something. Like if you remember being a kid and there was some kind of cause you cared about, you jumped onto it with your whole heart, right? Because there's nothing really else to do. You just cared as a young person about activism. And I don't think he really like caught on to that quite. Like I think maybe the gap is just too far between, you know, the young
There's no
generation
gap.
he talks about.
Have you ever heard of horizontalism?
No.
Horizontal death. So this is a really interesting idea, which is it's a decentralized way that groups can interact. So we have built into us, I guess what you would call verticalism, which is that it's hierarchical, top-down structures, and so the it's just built into us to this guy's the boss, or this girl's the president, or this person's this, or this person's that, and I'm under this. And you know, I was watching this really satanic show on Bravo called something about just like people working on a yacht. It's about the people who work on these fucking yachts, and these like, who knows who these people are, but you barely see them. That's it, which kind of like amplifies the creepiness. Is like some insanely wealthy family breezes onto this yacht, and you see him just for a few seconds, you know, and you see that it's almost like they can't show them too long because it's so fucking weird what happens to people who become that wealthy. I'm not talking about like normal wealth, like normal, you know, success, whatever. You're doing great. You can go out to eat whenever you want. I'm talking about the kind of wealth where you're like never going to run out of money ever. It's always coming in from a million different sources, some offshore accounts, nested into this and that and a million different things all over the planet, just everywhere, just a pulsating grid of like tentacles that are just sucking stuff. Sometimes not, sometimes they are, and there's no way that you're ever going to run out of money. You are set. And so within that, you become something that can either be really cool or incredibly obscene. And you just don't even know. You're having to rationalize constantly. You're having to make this work out in your head that you're like doing this, you know. I don't know. I could see how there would be a lot of like potential for what's the word? You know, like the way that if you stop hearing, your voice will change because you don't have a reference point to listen to your own voice.
Yeah.
Similarly, I think this can happen to like very wealthy people where they have this quality to them that seems like warped almost because their reference point is people who have the same experience as them, and they sort of gather together in these enclaves that have like not normal walls, though they usually do have walls, but they have these sort of financial impermeable membranes that you like Mar-a-Lago, like Trump's mansion or whatever. You you can't go there unless you pay like $150,000 or $200,000. So anyone who's there has passed through this, impermeable membrane that's only permeable based on how much money you have and probably some other vetting process.
Yeah.
So these people are all hanging out with each other and they become like each other, and there's this weird warped quality to them. And you see it and you're like, whoa, what is going on? Because it's actually kind of garish and loud, at least on this yacht. Um, and they torment the crew. They torment the crew. And the show itself is like, let's take a look at the serving class. What are the servants doing on the yacht? Let's see. That's what the show is about. It's like a camera on the serving class, and it's like,
So is it really from their perspective?
oh yeah, it's a reality show
Oh,
just
wow.
about people on the yacht.
Huh.
Servants on a yacht, servants of the very ultra rich. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to get at here is that horizontalism is a concept that is not based on any kind of hierarchy at all. It's just based on the idea that in the moment, in real time, anyone who happens to be in the room has an equal value. Doesn't matter their education, doesn't matter their wealth, doesn't matter their beauty, doesn't matter their lack of wealth, doesn't matter their none of it matters except that they're human and they've been on the planet and they have within them something that is going to be useful for the group. And so that's called horizontalism. And there's no leader. It's decentralized, innately decentralized. Now, this doesn't mean that like if we're all cooking together, it doesn't mean that there isn't a leader in the sense that whoever's cooking needs help. Let's help this person cook. Or whoever's doing this or that in any given moment might be the leader. But we don't really have some like actual leader, horizontalism. And it happens day to day. It's not a long-term thing. It's day to day. When we gather together, we're all the same. We're not going to torment each other by either putting someone on a pedestal or putting someone off a pedestal. There is no pedestal. We're all in the pedestal. It's called human existence.
What context does this exist in? Like, is this something you apply in a certain situation, or is this something like a belief structure people will just apply in their lives?
Well, there's a great essay by David Graeber on it. He went and was like checking out the yellow vest stuff that's going down in Paris, and sort of analyzing it from the perspective of like so many people are trying to grab that movement and say it's mine. People are like, they were chanting Trump, 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 and they were this or they were that. His thing is like, well, this is like what you're looking at is this like new model of things, which is it's a problem because it's a swarm. It's like a kind of like swarm, and it's not. You can't shut it down in the normal way. You can't shut it down by killing the leaders, arresting the leaders, by reforming the leaders, by getting the leaders' heads, by infiltrating the thing itself, because the thing itself is operating on this condition of horizontalism.
Do you know the concept of Stigmergy?
No. What is that?
Oh, this is so interesting. Ever since I was a kid, I was really interested in like bugs and insects and stuff. And I got into ants and hive creatures like bees and stuff. And I learned that there's this property called Stigmergy, which is basically the organizational principle of these insects. And it's not all just like commands down from the queen. It's actually wrote routines that they run into and execute depending on how they interact with the environment. So for example, if they're like digging holes and putting food into a room, they'll almost like count how much food is in the room and then start executing a different subroutine. So then it means like if there's too much food in this room, then I'll start digging new holes or something. Or if there's too many eggs, then I have to send out a pheromone to tell the queen to slow down breeding or that kind of stuff. It's really interesting, super interesting. There's this book. There's a woman who wrote a book on it. I'm forgetting her name.
Marsh.
Heather Marsh.
Heather Marsh.
That's right. Yeah, I want to get her on the show too. She's super interesting.
And so there's some evidence that a similar principle applies in humans, but obviously because we have a higher cognitive capacity, it expresses a bit differently. So it's very interesting. We talked a bit about it with Jordan Greenhall. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's not super famous, but he's like a thinker that's coming onto the global scene. Yeah, so this kind of collective consciousness that seems to be emerging more and more, the sort of self-organization of groups with no leader.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's right. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think that there's so much sweetness in it, because what it is like we could trust each other. We could trust each other to it's a form of democracy, and but it's instantaneous democracy. It's happening there. It's happening there, and there's this like so much beauty in that, because this is the kind of thing that is truly unstoppable. Like you can stop a normal revolution. You could stop it. You find the leaders, you find the books on the revolution itself, you find the thing, and you could. It's been done. I mean, this is like supposedly why Nixon made marijuana illegal and psychedelics illegal. Is they didn't. It's not like they cared. They weren't like, oh my god, people are going to be too high and it might drive them mad. It's that they made a connection between the fact that intellectuals in subversive movements were taking psychedelics, and that once you create a thing, say, oh, that's illegal. Like you could say like glasses are illegal. So then now you can arrest anyone who's wearing glasses. Just make it up, whatever it may be. So and so this is or even worse, more insidious and more depressing is that um, power structures at this point, everyone's evolved. So the idea is like, oh no, the idea, don't assassinate the leader. You out of your mind. That just like, that does pulls an Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like that makes them like legendary. The better thing to do would be to over time find leaders, find people with influence, and then gradually corrupt them. Slowly get them into whatever the particular MO of your group or state or whatever the thing is. This is what advertisers do this all the fucking time.
Fear.
No, I mean, not that. I mean, like advertisers will find, people with influence and try and just give them shit.
Oh,
And
right.
you know what I mean? It's like they're like, if you give this person this or that, they'll wear it, and eventually in front of some people, and we'll get a bunch of free publicity, and then people will associate our brand with that person. So this is a technique that isn't conspiratorial. It's used all the time. I've heard about these things called gifting rooms. You ever heard of this? Gifting
No.
rooms? Oh my God. Woo! This is so weird. But God, I'd love to be invited to one day. I've heard about this. And what they do is they invite you to a thing called a gifting room, or it's like a gifting chamber. And you go in there, it's like, big corporations. I'm not going to name any because I can't remember the one that I heard. It was some famous shoe producer. But you go in there and it's just all their products and like rare shit. And you go in there and you just take what you want, take it all. And there's people in there like, here, oh, it's so nice. We love your work. Here, take it. And then they just go and wear it. And then they get on camera wearing it. And it's like, that's great because we didn't have to shoot a commercial. And, for the $1,000 or $2,000 we spent giving them the stuff, we got $200,000 worth of publicity, and we intertwined ourselves with this particular person. One of the most famous examples of this recently has been Colin, the kneeling guy who Trump got all pissed off about, the basketball player who wouldn't kneel. Right. So suddenly there's an ad campaign, and then there was all this flurry of like, oh, what? How dare that company support that heathen? That he would do that and all this publicity. Their stocks fucking surged, and it was just an exact duplication of the thing Bernays did with getting women to smoke. Did you know about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Actually, I recall hearing about the gifting room. I think on Joe Rogan's podcast, one of his guests was talking about how he got refused
Oh,
because
yeah, he
his
wasn't
celebrity
famous
status
enough.
wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
Get away! We're not giving you our shit, bitch.
Yeah, and then he talks shit about them on Joe's podcast. So there you go.
And so more and more, now more and more publicity for them. But obviously, if like corporations are doing this, then states are doing this as well. And also not just states, but different factions and groups, for better or for worse. They attach themselves to someone who has some influence, and then that person becomes a mouthpiece for them. I think a good example of that would be what just happened with, oh God, Kim Kardashian. She became aligned with a wonderful group of people who are trying to do prison reform. And so she started showing up at the White House talking to Trump. And this is a really sad to me. This is very sad because suddenly, like people on the left were like, "How dare? What is this nonsense that our president should be entertaining a reality star of the precious oval?" Meanwhile, what was actually happening was a brilliant, brilliant end game coming from a wonderful group of people who understand that the United States is uh, has a horrific, horrific problem, which is that we have imprisoned so many people because of our insane laws.
Yeah.
And they had somehow managed to get to Kim Kardashian, which connected them to Kanye West, which connected them to President Trump, which now there's this massive prison reform happening in the United States,
Wow.
thanks to this organization and their incredible, brilliant strategy. So in some cases, it's really good. It's not always nefarious.
Yeah.
It's just a tool, a tactic, so to speak.
Yeah.
So in this horizontalism concept, this becomes an impossibility. And what the reality of it is that there might be spokespeople for a group, but the spokespeople aren't going to stay the same. They're always going to be changing and shifting. And if you were to go into the group in some search for a leader, you might find suddenly that you are the leader.
Mm,
If it was a smart enough group, if the group mind, because you would be entering a group mind,
yeah.
and suddenly your identity would just naturally begin to um, sort of come apart at the seams. It's because, clearly, like if we look at what seems to happen most of the time in nature, is we don't see a lot of like what we would consider individualism. We see things that are individualistic. They have different qualities. Lions with different types of like shades, leopards with different spots. We see every flower looks a little different. Every snowflake looks a little different, on and on and on. But mostly we see these things operating as a kind of unified group. And also we see that thing happening with people as well. It's just the people are being told that they're actually individuals. When if you just look at the pulsation of society, it's clear that we are an organized group. It's just at this moment right now, the organizing seems to be coming from the top down. And as that supply chain of organization crosses through the various intents of the corporations, the states, the people who want money, the people who want communism, the people who want liberalism, the people who want socialism, the people who want libertarianism, it begins to become fragmented and distorted. And then we end up where we are now, which is like someone pointing at someone and being like, no.
Yeah, man, this is fascinating to me on kind of a global organizational scale, like something like liquid democracy. What would that look like in practical application?
Liquid democracy. Did you just make that up?
No, man, that's a real thing. That is,
Oh.
there is a blockchain company called Democracy Earth, where we've actually interviewed one of the co-founders of that company. And what they're doing is creating a voting platform where you can assign your vote to someone else in a specific domain. So if you've got like a friend who really knows stuff about the environment and you don't know anything, but you trust your friend, you can hand your vote to him.
Yes.
And people
Yeah.
vote on issues, not on representatives.
Exactly.
That's wonderful. That's great. Yeah, that's it. That's it. We are going to do this. It's going to happen.
I think
It's
so
gonna
too. It's a matter of
It's
time.
going to be resisted, and it's going to be fought back against by people who are enjoying their, temporary nest up in this hierarchical tree. But it's just not going to, it just won't, it's not going to work. It just
Yeah.
won't work. I mean, that's all. It's not going to work. It's like, and I would far rather this organizational quality happen through a kind of like surrender to the beauty of what it is to be human than because then what happens when there's an earthquake and people go outside and just naturally adhere to a kind of horizontalism, which is when you see people digging people out of rubble, there's not a lot of like, hey, who makes the most money here? Who makes the most money? You go dig. There's none of that. Can I see your credentials for digging out of the rubble? You've been approved by the
Yeah.
state to dig people out of rubble? No, none of that. It just is a bunch of people together helping. Now,
Yeah.
this is what a human swarm is like.
And just
And-
picture how much faster global democracy would move if you could just like swipe left or right for a new law. Like, should mushrooms be legal? Of course, most people are, well, I don't know for that, but for sure marijuana.
Well, if we produce a kind of like fantasy where somehow the technology, the unhackable technology, has been implemented in this global democratic techno utopia. I'm assuming it would be technology. Then laws would become these very shift change things that just breathe.
Yeah.
It would be like this, like an understanding. There would be a kind of understanding of why this or that thing should be uh, regulated or limited, or why it wouldn't be great for everyone to be doing it all at the same time, and why it would be great for all of us to be doing it at the same time. And we would sort of work it out. And within that, there would have to be some room for breaking the law and breaking. There'd be groups of people who are like, we don't do that shit. And then who knows what would happen? I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like, it's beyond me. The future part of it, it's beyond me. The person I'm working with, who is teaching me meditation, Kagyu Buddhism, the way he puts it is, we do this in real time, right now. And when I'm working with him, there really isn't much like, here's what we're going to do next week, or here's what's coming, or here's my plan for as I teach you this form of tantric Buddhism. It's just, we're doing this right now. And within that, something opens up that is wonderful and psychedelic and beautiful. But yeah, so similarly in horizontalism, I think there's this attitude of like, well, let's do this right now, like here in this moment, all three of us together,
Yeah.
and then something might come or something might not. But that's the concept, is like, first we have to kind of like temporarily push aside the story. And
Yes.
yeah. And that's a cool place to be. Like, okay, the story's great, and I respect the story. History, I respect it, and I believe it, and I know it happened, obviously. It's beautiful, and there's so much to learn from it. Now let's push it aside for a moment.
Yeah.
Now what's happening?
Yeah.
Oh, we're just people hanging out.
Yeah.
Okay, this is nice, just
Yeah.
people hanging out. This isn't communism. This isn't socialism. This isn't libertarianism. This is just people hanging out. Oh, that's nice.
Mhm.
We can hang out there. And then, what happens is suddenly someone will start marching around with a bullhorn. You're communists! You're communists over here! You're communists! And then you'll start thinking like, oh my God, am I a fucking communist? I don't want to arrest people. Am I going to start arresting? Am I going to get arrested? Are we going to arrest each other? Now paranoia creeps in. And then the next thing you know, everyone's like, oh, what have we done? Just by hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, people often want to place things in boxes and kind of put some sort of a construct around it, or they're just operating by default from a construct instead of just being fluid.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And everyone's always like, oh God, we've been conditioned by this force or that force. I mean, I say it all the time, and it's like, okay, great. We've been conditioned. So let's now, for a second, just drop the stories of being conditioned. And now let's just see what happens if we just don't really plan that much in the moment.
We talk about
And
this so much all the
Mm-hmm.
time, about the story that you perpetuate of your life that prevents you from taking action on wherever you want to go. Like, I don't know. Maybe you can explain that a little better.
Well, yeah, but then on the other hand, there's all the planning, constant planning, instead of just observing what is in every moment.
It's funny because we're partners, we're married, and we have we have a business together in this podcast and stuff. So the conversation is constantly shifting and into different realms. And then there's like the meditation and all of that stuff and this consciousness exploration. So it's like everything kind of molds together and coalesces. And this is one conversation topic that keeps coming up, is the story, whatever prevents you from going where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself like, we did DMT last year, and we were doing it like every week or so for a little while. And I had this one session where I went in silence and darkness, smoked it, and then found myself narrating, trying to find a story that I could tell on the podcast. You probably experience this kind of thing too all the time, where you're like, oh, I have to think of something new to talk about. I have to gotta remember that story for the next time. And every time I did that, I kind of got slapped on the head. Like the story itself was something I needed to drop. The desire for the story to go back and share it with others needed to be dropped.
Yeah. It's just, I think it's I've heard this described in a few different ways. The best Chogyam Trungpa says, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche says, disown it, in the sense of like it's like, if I'm meditating and whatever the thought pattern is, like, sometimes you'll have some experience when you're sitting, and then immediately all this stuff kicks in once you're once the thoughts start bubbling up. And then the thoughts will begin to say, oh, wow, this is interesting. Oh, I see now. Of course, like everything is within my mind, in the sense that all I'm observing is being processed within my mind. So the birds singing are kind of the same as my thoughts. It's just some aspect of me is saying that the birds and my thoughts are different things, when in reality they're all being run through the same processor. So already at this moment you have stopped and stop becoming what you actually are. And what you yeah but you haven't really. What's really happened is it's more akin to, like, for one moment, maybe, let's say you're looking at your computer screen and you're watching some wonderful film, and wow, it's great, and you're watching like, oh, this is amazing. But instead of saying this is amazing, all of a sudden pop-ups start going in front of the film. This is amazing.
That is so perfect. That's exactly
Yeah.
what that is.
Yeah, instead of experiencing it, you're like doing secondary, tertiary layers of kind of commenting and trying to put it into concepts and relating to other shit that happened last week.
But then this is the film you see. The pop-ups are actually the film. You begin to realize. The pop-ups are the film, and they're just as beautiful as the bird song. And then, they're both the same, in fact. And you realize that there isn't anything wrong with those pop-ups any more than there's anything wrong with a bird song. And there isn't nothing wrong with the lawnmower sound, and there's nothing wrong with the workers, and there's nothing wrong with the anxiety, and there's nothing wrong with actually anything at all. It's all happening, and you're in it, and you're part of it. And then within that is what you are, what you actually are, and that's groundlessness. Or spaciousness might be a nicer way to say it, or emptiness is another way to put it. I've heard the term shunyata used, but there's lots of different ways to put it. And something within that allows, I think, for this concept of horizontalism to really work well. The more that you are not just getting rid of the story, but the big stories. I'm from this country, I'm from that country. Or, oh man, I had an alcoholic father with PTSD, and now I'm afraid of getting people angry at me, or I'm this old, or this is my social security number, I'm a millennial, I'm a Gen X. Not just that stuff, but like get rid of the story that you have a story. Get rid of the story that you want to get rid of stories. Get rid of all of it is now no longer you are disowning it. It's not yours. Disowning has actually got a really negative connotation to it, because it's like we now use it in terms of like some rich person telling their kid, I'm disowning you. You're not getting any of my wealth. So we hear it and it sounds like bad. But really, what's such a nice thing to do, like, is just to begin to like have fun little moments in your own house. It doesn't mean that you're actually going to do it, but just have fun little moments in your house where you just disown everything, where you just think, oh, this isn't my stuff. It's going to be here longer than I am, that's for sure.
Do you remember the story of Bill Hicks playing Monopoly with his grandmother?
No, but I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So he was playing, and he would get very competitive with her, and she kept beating him, and then finally he beat her, and he was celebrating, pumping up and everything, and then she says to him, okay, now you learn the next lesson. Everything goes back in the box.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. That's it. That's right. It's a heavy weight to so, if you start playing the game, a family is a good place to start, and a marriage is a good place to start. A roommate situation for those who aren't married is a good place to start. But, within that, you can experiment with all kinds of different forms of social organizing. So within a marriage, you can have a lot of stories happening. One common one is the breadwinner story. Like,
Hmm.
I'm the breadwinner. I'm the one making the money. Therefore, you are not making money, and therefore you are somehow some in some marriages this is considered to be like a hierarchical situation. I'm the one making the money. You're dependent on me. All this stuff is mine. I'm just kind of letting you borrow it as long as you follow the rules of the marriage. So this is uh, a really sad situation to be in for both parties. On one side, you're actually living with a person who, in a weird way, is like a sharecropper who's just sort of like sharecropping your stuff, and you're weirdly a marriage sheriff in that situation, making sure they follow all the rules. And they're obviously in a completely unstable situation. They're going to feel destabilized and terrified secretly, or resentful, or who knows what. Just basically trapped. So that's a rough spot to get in. And all levels of that game are pretty brutal. This is what people say, like, like when they start using bank account analogies for a marriage. It's which I've done with various, like, oh, it's deposits and withdrawals, deposits and withdrawals. You deposit love into love, and then you can withdraw a certain amount of love, and then you're keeping score, and now you've got this like weird love stock exchange happening in your own fucking marriage, or with your kids, or with your friends. Like, you're a little overdrawn on love, friend. I think you need to make some deposits. Take me out to dinner, bitch. That kind of nonsense, It's terrible.
Yeah.
And so within that, there's a lot of energy that's getting used on these insane calculations. So if you just for a second imagine that nothing that is around you is actually yours, I'm not saying give everything away. I'm not saying anything like that. I'll just just create a little 5-minute bubble where everything around you has been given to you by the divine, and it's a gift, and you're not going to obviously get to take it with you when you die, and you really can't take it with you anywhere now, and you're barely even, like, there's nothing that's happening with it in reality. And then you'll find a kind of relief. It feels really good. You're just like, yeah, this is just all this is some weird temporary weather system of matter around me that is harmonizing to my karma. And it's certainly not mine, but I love it. It's beautiful. I love it. It's wonderful to have it. And then within there, it's not sharing anymore. It's just, yeah, I don't know. There's this matter thing around me. It's fun. It's a relief. It's hard to hold on to stuff. I mean, it's literally holding on to stuff is no one wants to. This is why we have backpacks and suitcases and porters and cars and horses. No one wants to hold on to shit. It's like exhausting. We like putting our bags down. It's a relief to put our bags down. I mean, always. It's just like, it feels good. Even if it's just to take a little breather. You want to pick it back up, pick it back up.
It's interesting. You were talking about how in hierarchical systems, the people at the top kind of give out orders and they get to have their moment at the top of the pyramid. But I think they're, in some ways, even less free than the people at the bottom, because they're more intertwined in all of these systems where they balance in, balance out. Like, they obviously didn't get their wealth by doing nothing. They owe stuff to other people too, and they have to repay when the time comes. So,
Yes. That's right.
they've got a lot of obligations too.
I also
That's
wonder
right.
if exposure to
Yes.
death on a regular basis isn't a contributing factor to this. Like, people act as if they're never going to die, as if they've never experienced death around them. Like, especially younger.
That's so funny. Yeah. People also act like they're alive all the time. That's very popular these days, acting like you're alive.
Yeah. When people are
You
actually
go around
robotized.
like, I'm alive. Look, I'm here, man. I'm alive. Don't you see? But then when you're like really sitting with yourself, you're like, wait, what does that even mean? I'm not even sure I am alive. So yeah, both sides. People act, like they're not going to die. Then people act like they're alive. It's just a bunch of acting going on.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because death has become so sanitized and hidden from plain view. Like, it all happens in a morgue and some professional is dealing with it. It's not like, in the hut in a village where everybody sees it happening.
I do think, from my experience traveling to places where death is more out in the open, that people who are aware of death more seem to be in the moment more. I can't necessarily say that like a whole population of people is happier or different in because of that specifically, but I would say where it's more normal, it seems like people, well, we do know from experience that they won't make bets on the future.
Mm-hmm.
Like people are a lot more short-term thinking. Like we lived in Vietnam and Thailand for a long time, and they're like, you cannot get them to plan further ahead than a couple of days in most cases, because their life has never been about being able to plan, because things go wrong so quickly. The inflation of the currency in Vietnam was one of them. So
Also,
yeah.
planning for the future, it can be quite a, it's like it's really one for some people. I think it's like it's a kind of a boring game. It's like, it's a form of make believe, and you're like, all right, let's do some. There's like good planning, which is like, where do you guys want to go eat? We should make a reservation, or what's that show you want to see? We should get some tickets. That stuff's good, but quite often, people are doing this kind of like wild, like, what will we look like when we're old? What do you think we're gonna do? And you're like, man, I don't know. Like, I'll probably be a fucking vampire bat. Let's just make up shit. I don't know. I'm gonna have wings. I'm gonna suck blood out of cows' necks. Maybe I don't know what we're gonna be. I don't know what we're gonna be. And it's fun. I mean, it's a fun make believe. But to get back to this idea of like the concept is there's some wisdom in understanding our own mortality, and that is
Yeah.
that's true. So using finance is, since a lot of people are really familiar with that these days, is a good method to talk about that sort of thing, which is that some people have established a kind of bank account that has within it years, and they imagine that they have some certain amount of years left based on some statistical evidence that they've seen on TV or in their own experience or whatever. And so they've got this, like, you end up seeing, similarly to the like what satanic freaks who are marching around the yacht like with sparklers and demanding that pie gets shoved into their mouths at every second. You have people who are doing a version of that, except with time. So they're going around being selfish usually, or they're going around justifying being aggressive or angry. And within their mind, they've created a kind of span of time that they're going to be living in. And so right now they're in the selfish part of the span of time, but they have this fantasy that at some point they'll reform. And then they're going to begin to be kind to people or something like that. But right now we're having fun, okay? I'm not going to do all that shit till I get a little older, baby. I'm out of the bed. Woo! And so that's temporal. That's obviously a delusion. It is based on nothing, unless they're somehow like able to see into the future for real. And so so there's some wisdom in understanding that not only do you not know how old you're going to live to, you can't use statistics based on that. I mean, every day there's a million examples or thousands of examples of people who just fall over dead. Sometimes they don't even know why. They just like die. I've seen videos on YouTube of people mid speech just slumping over, just they're out. Avatar done. Disconnect from the simulation. So
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean. So
Yep.
so within the wisdom in understanding our own mortality. Yes, that's for sure. And then I think there's some wisdom in understand. Okay, yes, of course we don't know how long we're going to live. Clearly, at any moment we can die. The mountains fall out of the sky. They've smashed into the planet many times, wiping out entire ecosystems for millions of years. This is not a very stable situation. We're on the surface of a planet where the mountains fall out of the sky. Things the size of mountains fall out of the sky every once in a while on this planet. This has been proven. This is why we're here, probably. Another way to put it is like we are in a if you like for dinosaurs, this is a post-apocalyptic universe that we're living in. Like this is a post-apocalyptic universe. This is Planet of the Apes for dinosaurs, literally. So that being said, then it would be good to understand what is life, because it's easy to understand death we can look and see a dead person. It's no problem. We rot, we decay, we turn into mud, or we get cremated. Death is pretty easy to understand. Life, on the other hand. So that would be a good exploration, which would be, all right, well, what is life? And what is death? You would need to really understand both sides, I think. And so for a lot of people, a life is all of their memories. So many people will sit and that's the story. They're like, well, I was born in Georgia And I spent some time there. I moved around the country, and I went to high school at this place, and I went to college at this place. And I was in love with this person at this point. And I did this and I did that. And there was a thing I had. And yesterday I had white wine for dinner. And but really, when you think about it, all that stuff is infinitely gone. In fact, every single moment before this moment is infinitely gone, meaning that you've already died. If death is losing everything that we were or have had or have owned, and you think about your house when you were 10, dead, that house is lived in by someone else. The clothes you're wearing are either at a dump or in some vintage store at this point, depending on how old you are. And every single thing that you cherished as being yours is gone, gone, gone. Similarly, the moment before this moment, gone, eradicated, gone, completely gone. And also the moment after this moment, non existent. This is reality. This is reality. We're like a centipede. You know, centipedes have all these segments. A centipede, we're like actually has segments. A human is like a centipede with one head, recreating the segments in the past using memory in some sense of there being a thing. So really the truth is we're actually kind of already dead in the sense that if you believe that you when you die you lose everything, we're just a frame really that has a cognitive as part of our cognition we imagine this sort of trail of selfness, but that's all gone. So yes, one, good to understand, no, you don't know when you're going to die, but then also good to understand, are you really even alive? If what is that you are, this thing? I think that's very important because within that is a lot of freedom. Again, it feels good to put down bags, very good to put down bags. And a lot of people, man, Jesus Christ, they're like dragging the Library of Congress over their shoulders, except it's just filled with all these stories and memories and shit they tell themselves about stuff that happened and the constant fixation on some moment in their past.
Yeah. Did you see that article talking about how there's this physics theory that the universe is actually flat and that it's just kind of this screen as it's that like stuff is constantly being projected onto? I can't remember exactly how it was described, but it seemed very much related to actually my experience in meditation, that there's no kind of solidity to anything, and the fact that, like, not even the fact but just the impression that objects kind of have three dimensions or are moving through time is kind of an illusion, really.
Mm, mm.
It's just something that we construct in our mind to make sense of things.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is a this is this is it. Yeah. That those kinds of realizations are so wonderful, very freeing, very freeing. And yeah, the so it's sort of like the, what is the um fundamental nature of things? Is there a fundamental nature of things? Another way to put it would be, um, what would it be to be in tune? You know, as a human, what is that? What would that mean to be in tune, right? And is there like if I want to tune a guitar, um, I use my iPhone. They've got great apps for tuning guitars. In the old days, it was more difficult. And a friend in college taught me that you could tune a guitar to itself. And within this tuning the guitar to itself, the guitar would kind of like uh, naturally go out of tune because you're tuning it to itself, and it would eventually, like whatever that was, would be you could play with other people who are all tuning the guitar to some specific guitar in the group, but you're not hitting the universal C, for example. So the question would be: is there some transcendental tuning fork? Is there some thing that is fundamentally implicit in reality that we are part of, or is there not? If there is, which I think there is, that would mean that there is a connection and out of tuneness to being in tune. There's a kind of continuum happening there. So, like, if I have a guitar string that's out of tune, it's actually still on the continuum of being in tune. It's somewhere on that continuum, you know? And so I think this is what a practice is the uh, gradual realization of what we actually are, and that relaxing into it, what we actually are. And that thing that we actually are is, I've heard it described in one way, which I really like, fundamental goodness. Fundamental goodness. That's what we are. Fundamentally good. Fundamental goodness. And that's what we are. And so that's this. That's the tuning fork. The tuning fork is this moment.
It's funny you use the tuning fork analogy, because I've heard of a similar answer to what we are being at its purest form vibration. And in that same DMT experience I was telling you about before, that's kind of an experience it's very hard to describe, but it was like I was seeing all of reality as just one vibration, like a C. And when I stopped looking at it and stopped observing it and trying to remember to tell a story, I would merge with it. As soon as I stopped being me, I became the note and vibrated along with it. And as soon as I started thinking, oh, this is an amazing experience, it's like everything and nothing happening at the exact same time, and that death is not a vacuum and emptiness, it's a fullness as well. And so every time I would think about this, I would get pulled out and I would start orbiting, like moving around the fundamental note. And then, yeah, if I stop focusing, I'd go inside of it again.
Yeah. So if you want something to be full, what does it have to be first?
Empty.
Yeah, that's right. And so this emptiness, it's a really wonderful concept. And again, just because of the way we are these days, it's actually, a lot of people, like, they connect disowning to something bad. They connect emptiness as being bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's empty. We got to fill it up, fill her up. Big gulp, fill up the big gulp, fill free refills, on and on and on. About filling up. Everyone wants to fill up. You fill up your stomach, you fill up your grocery bag, your grocery cart, you fill up your wallet, you fill up this, fill up that, fill up that. Empty, empty, empty. It's like, ooh, I don't know. Are you bulimic? What's happening? Are you purging too much? So emptiness. And then also associated with emptiness is, nihilism, kind of like, if everything is emptiness, there's a quality of annihilation or nihilism to it, as though it's people are kind of afraid of contemplating emptiness or imagining that we are actually just emptiness, because they imagine that, in the same way, like, people are afraid to go to the doctor because they're afraid to get a diagnosis and then they're going to be sick, even though they would already be sick before you went to the doctor, unless you have the shittiest doctor on earth. Similarly, people are afraid to contemplate emptiness, as though, like, in some moment of contemplation, they would be annihilated by the very conceptualization of the emptiness. So it's scary to people, to imagine that this fundamental goodness has a quality of spaciousness and emptiness to it. It is emptiness. And so, yeah, people are really get a little nervous about that. So what you were talking about in your DMT trip is, I've had the similar experiences, and with various psychedelics, and within it, there seems to be some kind of continuum. And on one side of the continuum is this, like, wonderful spaciousness. And this is precognition spaciousness. In fact, by the time you're already thinking, even for a moment, of like, oh, this must be this or that, you're out of it already. And you could even say that in that moment of, like, oh God, that was this thing or that thing, you could imagine that in a weird way, you're burrowing back into time. You're burrowing back into your life. You're going down, 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 back into the density of yourself and the story of yourself, down, 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 down. And then you really will start burrowing, because now in the material universe, upon having this grand experience, we're going to want to reproduce it. And by talking about it, by writing about it, by painting about it, by making art about it, this is wonderful, by the way. What a wonderful thing to do is to like, in a strange way, you're bringing it back here in the form of the articulation of this wonderful thing. But in the bringing it back here concept, you're imagining that there's a there and there's a here. When the reality is they're the same thing. They're the same thing. And this is why there is an idea that samsara and nirvana are intertwined. And another way to put that is confusion is is a condition of enlightenment. That to become enlightened, you have to be confused. And so that means that confusion is holding hands with enlightenment. And that the confusion itself is a form of enlightenment. It's this wonderful continuum, you know. And so within there's a lot of place to forgive yourself if you don't happen to be levitating or enlightened at this very moment, because actually you are. You just, you are. It's what you are. It's you. It's you. It's the essence of everything. So there's a lot of it's wonderful. I think a lot of people there's a prohibition on talking about enlightenment. You know, people are like, don't even mention that shit. Confuse yourself.
Yeah, there's a lot of baggage that comes with it. And for that reason, like, we've been kind of hesitant to talk about some of our spiritual experiences on the podcast because there's so much kind of assumption, including hierarchy or, you know, some sort of sainthood, where it's just another aspect of human experience.
Yeah,
There's nothing hierarchical about it, and there's nothing kind
elitist
of
or exclusive.
elitist. Yeah. And it doesn't make you a better or a worse person.
No, and also I think like maybe one of the wonderful things about it, in fact, is that it's everyone. It's accessible because it's what you are, and it's not controllable. And I think maybe in like people in hierarchies, maybe that's why they get really like they get real prickly about it, because like you know, you want to be able to sell something. Like, how the fuck am I going to be able to sell my thing if like you're already giving away the secret that the thing is? It's no, you can't. It's like me trying to sell you your face. It's hey, you want to buy your face? Hey, let me show you how to have a face. In 2 years,
I'm not convinced I have a face. I've never seen it.
I won't give you if you don't, my friend, but you will. By three years of my master class, and all you will have. I am telling you. Or there's, you know, another reason that I think that people get up in arms over it is because it is a distraction. So, you know, and it produces this end goal, and I got to be like this now, and there's some way to be. And this is, I think, the kind of like tricky element of psychedelics, and what a psychedelic offers you is wonderful, and it gives you a real it gives you a real wonderful view, and it's great. I love it so much. But then you can get really attached to the view that you had, and again, this is just more stuff in the past. Like, all that's just gone now. Like, I don't care what happened during my psychedelic experiences, which have been many, and many of them have been profound, and many of them have been truly stunning. But what sometimes in the world of psychedelics, you have people who are just deeply attached to some psychedelic experience they had. They've put it on an altar, and they're burning candles in front of it, and they're lighting incense around it, and they go on and on and on about and some of them are it's beautiful. The articulation of it is almost like doing a psychedelic sometimes, if someone is really, really profoundly good at articulating it. And you hear it, oh my God. It's like when people talk about miracle stories, you know?
And no wonder the Bible happened. I mean, those stories just perpetuate and are created hundreds of years after, and edited and added. And
yeah,
you deify these stories.
It's an attachment to the past. Usually, it's like if the story, what ends up happening is like it's like listening to a rock climbing story. And then I climbed up the rock face, and at the very top there was a golden palace. Oh, it was so beautiful, and these beings in the palace. Usually, there will be also, what's really interesting is some communication has happened in the psychedelic state. So a person has gone into the ayahuasca realm, or has gone into the ketamine realm, or the DMT realm, and there's been some great transmission that's come to them. It's been the most amazing thing. But they can't just say the amazing thing that they realized. They have to also tell you that the amazing thing was told to them by a being of light, as though the amazing wisdom needed a being of light to validate the wisdom. It could have just as easily been an Uber driver as a being of light. You know, it could have been anyone. It could have been a child in a playground. It could have been something that you were flipping through the channels and you saw the Lone Ranger say, and some
Sentient slime.
But
yeah,
Sentient slime.
sentient slime. You know what I mean? It's like, no, but you don't hear a lot of people when they're talking about the theory of relativity, they don't always say, and Albert Einstein said it. Because this is real. It's a theory. It's real. Like, this is the, you don't hear when people talking about fundamental physics. You know, oh, this is from Newton. Newton said this, or this person or that. It's just you. These are the things we just accept as they are. So we get these attachments to the beings of light. We get these attachments to the flowery way that the thing appeared, instead of the thing itself, the wisdom itself. And so someone was emailing me because I had my meditation teacher on, and he was quoting Tibetan Rinpoche's old Tibetan teachers, and it was a complaint. Like, you know, he's quoting all these old Tibetan teachers, and I said to him, "Well, what was he said? What was he quoting? What did they say?" I wanted to hear what the quote was itself, because I wanted to tell him, like, look, it doesn't really matter who said it. You know, it doesn't matter who said it. It's just that in the particular lineage that I'm in, Kagyu Buddhism, the teachers are quite fascinating in the sense, for me, in the sense that they allow for a kind of self-forgiveness or an acceptance of as we are now. That's why I like them. I like their life story in that sense, but I don't really care who said it necessarily. I don't care who it came from. But that being said, an awakened being can say to you, you should be kinder to each other. And within that packet, there's more than just the words. There's some kind of, it feels like there's something within that that's like a seed that gets planted. That's more than just the words. So I don't know. I think there is room for the potential that some oral transmission is what it's called. Something more than just wisdom being transmitted through words. But again, this can all get really distracting.
There's one thing that I really liked from that episode, from the latest one with your teacher, and he said the different things that they are taught to offer students before they offer the symbolic sword, where they actually like try to fix something or change something. And it was 4 things, and one of them was just like, well, welcome to being human. And I love saying that as well. Like, welcome to being human.
The sword is not, the sword is like the last, you know, if you're going to use a sword for in real life and in a way that isn't just training, then it's serious. You're in a serious situation if you decided to use a sword. This is like, if you're using a sword flippantly, whether you're a samurai or whether you're a teacher, then that's a lack of discipline, and it can be a form of aggression. So yeah, the sword is good, but yeah, there's so many things that come before the sword, and usually it's one of them is building up is one of the skillful means. So building up, which is like a lot of people, what I've encountered most of the time is that people are incredibly hard on themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And building up isn't flattery. It's not the same as flattery. It's that you can look at a person and see how beautiful they are, how powerful their soul, how what they are is just so beautiful. You could see that. And then you hear their story. And the story is usually like, oh, you know, I just always am fucking, I always forget, or I'm always late, or, you know, I just can't really, I can't commit to anything, or just things don't seem to be working out for me, or people are out to get me, or whatever. You hear the story, it's really not matching the what the story's coming out of. So building up would be not like, you're great. It would be looking and seeing how beautiful they are and then reflecting that in an honest way by really seeing that how beautiful they are and how grateful you are to be in their presence, and that a person that's that when that kind of connection is happening for a lot of people, that's like drinking water in the desert.
Yeah.
Because that's good for a lot of people, and this is like when they say see everyone as the Buddha, or Ram Dass says see everyone as a soul, which is actually I think the same thing. When you really do that, not like I'm gonna imagine that you're the Buddha, even though I think you're a fucking blithering idiot. I'm gonna imagine you're the Buddha, even though you are truly an asshole of all assholes. But if you really look at them and think, oh, I am in the presence of the divine. This is the
Yes.
Buddha who has taken on this form of this person for me in this moment to teach me. I am getting the darshan of the Buddha. And then in that moment, wow, because they will become the Buddha.
Kirby
And
Surprise said in his book, Synchronicity, that you can, when you realize that all of life is a stage, you can start playing with the other actors. And this is almost like what you're talking about, where you see the Buddha in them. You can almost like talk directly to the Buddha in them as well and kind of like coax it out of them.
No coaxing, friend. See, that's what I used to do. That's the problem. That's it. The coaxing part. It's like, because now it's like, oh, I don't think you're quite the Buddha yet. So I'm going to coax the Buddha out of you. I'm going to trick you into being the Buddha.
Yeah,
now,
I agree.
Interesting.
That's coercion.
Take the coaxing part away. Imagine that, in fact, just think of this. We got lucky enough to incarnate around the Buddha. And just like you hear stories about the Buddha and what it must have been like to be around the Buddha, but we actually got to be around the Buddha. And we began to experience things within the field of consciousness of this being that make the common Buddhist scriptures that we've heard seem like phone book, like reading from the phone book. So dry and just, I don't even know what that is. This thing that we were around was some kind of singularity. And the being was completely connecting to us as we were in that moment. And as part of that connection was putting on something of a show maybe for us. Maybe because our minds were so overwhelmed by the energetic waves that we actually began to imagine ourselves in the current incarnation that we are. And the being has now become all the people that we encounter. And this is part of the teaching, is that in a millisecond of being around this awakened being, it has produced a planet and people and our parents and our dogs and our cats and our marriage and all of this. And in this moment is using all of these things to teach us something. And at any moment, this darshan or this particular lesson, this transmission might end. And at that moment, when the transmission ends, in this particular place, we might just slump over as we give a speech. But in that place in the darshan of the awakened one, we might suddenly come to and look at him and go, wow, that was fucking intense, man. You made me a person. So when we say look at someone and see them as the Buddha, it means as they are, not as the Buddha within, not as what they could be, as they are now.
Not as something that you want from them, not as like the person that they could be, but exactly as they are. Yeah. And what happens in that moment too is you, in order to be able to see them that way, you also connect to the part of you that is that consciousness, that, Buddhahood.
Yeah. Watch out, see, because in that version of the story, we're not in the presence of the Buddha as he teaches us, but in that version of the story, we are the Buddha. And now we open our eyes and we're under the Bodhi tree. And we think, wow, that was pretty heavy. I had a vision of me as an entire planet. And I was every little bit on that planet. Wow, I must be getting enlightened. And then at that moment, you would be maybe experiencing the second temptation, as it's called, of the Buddha, the daughters of Mara, the presentation of all the potential lives you could have. And at that moment, what had happened is that when you were, for example, the case of like going into the universal consciousness available through psychedelics, instead of burrowing back down into your life in the material universe, you decided to let go, completely let go of all this. So you died, but you died in the way you die every time you wake up from a dream. You just let go. Because you'll notice, like in those psychedelic moments, like if you watch, you'll realize you're kind of clinging to here in the way maybe a kid clings to a pacifier or a blanket or something. It's kind of like a security blanket. This incarnation, we're really in it to win it. We're here right now. That's why we're here. If we weren't, we wouldn't be here.
Wasn't that a lovely moment of silence?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be something I've missed a bunch. The seeing the coaxing part, the not seeing them in their current form as being totally perfect.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, Jesus, that's me. I mean, yeah, that's it. You just want things to be the way you want them to be. I mean, this is like the idea is like if I can, if I can coax this thing or that thing out of you, or really, it's not just as though we're trying to coax something out of a person. Usually, we're trying to coax something out of every moment. There's like it's just in that moment, if a person emerges into the frame, we'll keep doing the same coaxing we're doing in every single moment, which is that in every single moment, there is a coaxing happening. It's just like, let me see if I can lure some joy into this moment. Let me see if I can move this thing over here and that thing over there. And then if I do that, there'll be something will happen that will produce something that I think is happiness. And it'll produce a kind of transient happiness, maybe, or kind of like, usually though, it's more of a distraction that happens, so you arrange this or that in a certain way. And a lot of people, what they are coaxing out of, because much louder than the Buddha is tragedy or disaster or catastrophe. So they will actually try to coax tragedy or catastrophe out of the situation by imagining that if they rearrange or continue to arrange things in the way they've been arranging things over and over again, this time there will not be a catastrophe. This time the Buddha will show up. So in this case, they're like, this is the people who are going through self-destructive patterns, so that they're, and the ones who are like, every time the fucking self-destructive pattern reaches the part where it explodes, they're like, I'm cursed. I must be cursed. Every time I take this, you see these grenades, I have this box of grenades. Every time I pull the grenade out and I pull the pin and I put it in my lap, it blows me up. The world is against me. What is happening? What is happening? Can someone help me? And then what happens is within that is they're blown apart. And then what happens is the other game player comes out of the forest, because they're not only is the person who like continually blows themselves up with a grenade. There's the person who imagines that the person blowing themselves up with a grenade can be helped. Mm-hmm. And so that's where the person comes up. He's like, okay. With all due respect, these are grenades. And when you And then the person with the grenades will go, oh, really? Oh, I had no idea all this time. I didn't realize they were grenades. Oh my God, thank you. You saved my life. And then sometimes they get married. Sometimes they have kids. They get in long-term relationships. And then at some point, the person will reach back down and pull the grenade out. Wow! And then the person who came out of the forest will be like, "What have you done? Why does this always happen? I always come out of the forest and I meet somebody and I teach them not to do the grenade thing, and they always do it again." And so then for the person in the forest, that was their box of grenades. And they are like, oh, I guess it's just people will never get my level of wisdom, and so I have to be. And then now you're doing self-crucifixion, and so you know what I mean. So these are the games. These are the games, and but within that game is something really beautiful, because within the game is the truth, and the truth is there is some sense of like I think there's something. I think there's the possibility for something here. I feel there's the possibility for something here that is so profoundly beautiful, and I want that. I want that. I passionately want it, and that is beautiful, and that is the connection to the great awakened state. Within that is a sense, a kind of like almost like there's you smell something like a perfume is in the air, and you can smell it. What is this? This perfume. And then that is the sense of like what you are. Well, the problem is it's just the way that we are looking for this usually is a distraction technique designed to keep us from experiencing the now.
In these games that we're just compulsively playing because we're bored or habituated to doing them, whether the grenade game or the saving game, or there's probably a third guy who's watching and being like, you two are idiots. Don't you understand what you're doing? I'm the third person observer. I have the clearest perception of what's happening.
That's right. That's right. Games are fun. It's like, this is anybody, like who when you sit and play, this is Ram Dass talks about this, when you're sitting and playing Monopoly with somebody, the last thing you want is for them to be like, just so you know, this is all just a game, the money, this paper. It's like, fuck you, dude, we're playing Monopoly. Act like you care. Absolutely. Acting is fun. I love movies. I love watching people act. I think magic is a lot of like, this is why there's something so beautiful in magic is you're acting, you're doing a thing. It's cool. It's fine to play games. This is okay. It's not that any way of being is like better or worse than any other way of being. It's just some people legitimately don't want to keep blowing themselves up, and some people do. Some people really don't want to. They're pretty much done with the grenade game, but they don't know that there's even any other game, and that's for real. And those are the people that or every person is worth helping. Every person is worth being with. Every person, it's all, but it's a good thing to have some discernment and to understand who is still into the game. One, understand, am I doing the guy in the forest or the gal in the forest who's the savior figure? And understand, if you're doing that, do you want to keep doing that game? Do you want to be the savior of the world? Do you want to be some kind of hero? Are you going through forests and looking at flowers and being like, oh boy, let me just move this flower a little to the right? That's better. Are you that would be fucking exhausting.
And when you put it that way, it's just so stupid.
Oh my God. And then on top of that, you're like telling everybody about how you fix the forest. I don't know if you were in the forest yesterday, but the flowers look like shit. But now, boy, if you go through, you'll see that's my doing. I did that. I did the flowers today in the forest. I arranged them all. Metric, according to what my teacher said, is the way flowers do, right? That's exhausting. That's an exhausting way to be. I wouldn't want to be like that. That'd be annoying.
I come from a lineage where the flowers are arranged in triplets.
Well, but, hey, if you want to arrange flowers in triplets, arrange them in triplets. It's like, as long as like this moment of arranging the flower in triplets is just be in the moment of be as you are. There's no. This is a time of right now of allowing ourselves the wonderful reality of what we are, of our this is the prodigal son story. These are all the wonderful stories of like someone who's been out in the world coming home, and the father figure or the mother figure not saying get the fuck out of here, you suck, but actually giving them everything. Here, it's all for you, it's okay. You, in fact, you already were it. It's all for you. It's all for you. It's you. It's yours. It's okay. And so that's a nice feeling. That place. That's from that place we can be compassionate because there's spaciousness there. Now we can really be compassionate.
We talked about the same thing the last time we did it.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about it again. I mean, there's lots to talk about though besides this fucking Buddhist bullshit. We could talk about other things. I mean that too. It's like some people talk about Buddhism by doing comedy, and they never mention Buddhism at all. There's so many different forms of teaching out there. I like the conversation about. I love this stuff, talking about it. I'm quite attached to the talking about it. I love it so much. But to finish off the idea of the weird grenade analogy. One thing you might say to someone is, "Oh, what I love about the way I'm being taught Buddhism is there is a I don't want to say that there's a thing you have to do, but it's an experiential form of Buddhism. So you need to sit. You have to meditate. You have to sit. It isn't like a knowledge thing. It's like you need to sit, and it doesn't have to be for a long time each day, but there does need to be that in it, at least as I'm being taught right now. So I like that because I think that's a good way for people to determine folks who maybe are ready to not blow themselves up with grenades, because it's like, can you sit still let's sit for a second. What happens? Can you sit? Can you sit still for 30 minutes? Why can't you sit still for 30 minutes? This, I was playing Hitman, the video game. Have you guys played that video game, Hitman? I think it's called.
I haven't played it.
It's ridiculous, but you sort of steer this hitman around a universe and try to kill people. You're a hitman. And one fun thing to do in games is to see what happens if you go towards the horizon.
Yeah.
And inevitably you're going to stop. And what's really funny is when the game designers are just like, fuck you, man. We're just like, there's an invisible force field. You hit it and you're like, you can't move anymore. There's no attempt to even conceal the fact that there is a perimeter around the game. And in this sense, in this game, what happens is you cross some certain area and it says out of mission area, out of mission area. It starts flashing. And I thought, oh, sometimes they'll just kill you.
Yeah.
But in this case, they don't kill you. They just out of mission area. And then you hit a wall. That's meditation. And so many people are like, into simulation theory, and this seems to be a simulator or something. And it's like, if you want to experience the wall of the simulation, one of them, sit still and don't move. And follow your breath and watch. Why is it that when you're doing that, sometimes it feels as though someone poured gasoline in your brain and set it on fire? You get fidgety, you have all these ideas, you might want to start falling asleep. Even if you're an insomniac, you might suddenly, just by sitting still, be like, oh God, just knocked out. You have all these reactions to it. But if you sit in front of on a couch in front of your nice 4K TV and turn on the news, you could sit there for 4 hours straight, no problem. So I think that there's something really interesting in that the practice of sitting still, which should be the easiest of things, is very difficult for people, to the point where it's special. What's the big deal? You're sitting still for half an hour. Oh, I'm meditating. It's special, you know? Just sitting still. It's no big deal. But it is a big deal in this dimension because everyone's fucking running around. They're running around up here, they're running around out there. So yeah, that's a cool little test if you want to like play around with the simulation. If you want to play around with the code, so to speak, just sit still for half an hour. Don't even call it meditation. Call it fucking with the matrix.
Yeah.
You know, hacking the matrix. See what happens. It's cool. You don't even call it meditation. Come up with your own name for it.
How long have you had this practice for with this teacher?
So this practice has been going on. You can actually follow the entire practice. The first session I had with him is recorded. It's the first podcast I did with him,
Cool.
I think, David Nickturn, where he instructs me on the very basics of the practice. This happened because at the Ram Dass retreats, I've been doing these podcast interviews with these great teachers. And one of my other teachers, Raghu, I was walking with him and he said, you know, Duncan, somebody said to me something I think is very interesting. He said, Duncan seems really nice, but what's his practice? I don't think he really has any practice. And I got so fucking mad because it was so true. It was so true. And I said to him, I was like, who said that? Who said that? Who would dare say the truth about what's true? And he's like, oh, it's David Nickturn. And so then I went to him and I said, why don't we do a podcast? Why don't you help? Will you teach me to meditate? And we had a really formal moment at the retreat where he said he agreed. And he started it off by talking about Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. And he said, listen, I just want you to know something up front. I'm going to tell you what he told me, and he meant it. This is hopeless. This is hopeless. I just want you to, I'm going to tell you that now. And then he just taught me how to do this form of sitting practice, which is the very beginning part in this form of Buddhism. And so ever since then, I've been working with him.
Cool. How long has that been?
I don't know. I would have to go look it up. I don't know. Maybe a year-ish, I think, maybe somewhere in that realm. Maybe not quite a year. I'm not sure. But it's very useful, you know, because I'd read a bunch of stuff about the necessity of some kind of meditation teacher, and it always bothered me a little bit just because I didn't really have one, and I didn't want to go looking for one because there's so much opportunity to get ripped off and tricked and like exploited, and
yeah. So
I was sort of resistant to that concept, but it actually, you know, of course you need that. You need a teacher for any good thing. Like, I mean, you can do it on your own for sure. Like you can learn guitar from watching YouTube clips or even from teaching yourself. But there is, if you go to a guitar, someone who teaches you guitar, they're going to look at the way you're holding the guitar. They're going to look at your fingers, the way you're doing scales. They're going to look at your guitar. They're going to look at and they're going to be able to dial in a lesson just for you. And that's what a good teacher does. A good meditation teacher is not giving you some universal set of rules. They're doing it in real time based on where you're at. And so that's good. You need that. It's not special. There's a few things that are really not special. Meditation is not special. A meditation teacher is not that special. Enlightenment is certainly not special. And the way Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche talks about it is, if you've been standing on your head for a long time, and then suddenly you're standing on your feet, and all the blood rushed back into your feet, there would be a moment of God, this is incredible. Holy shit, this is great. But then you would just be standing upright, and it wouldn't be a big deal. You wouldn't even feel much of a need to talk about it, you know, because you would just think, I'm standing upright. You know, there might be people who are with a bunch of blood in their head who see your feet walking by them, and they're like, hey, how did you do that? There might be a thing. But then also the funny thing about the concept of enlightenment is that there's some end point to it. There's a wonderful documentary on a teacher, an enlightened being named Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. And you can find it on Netflix. It's super cool. And someone at some event asked him a really, what I thought at first was a very ridiculous question. They said, "What's the difference between money and enlightenment?" And his response was, "Money ends. Enlightenment doesn't end. Money has an end. Enlightenment does not have an end." So this concept of there being like some final destination of like supreme realization is just more of the same stuff of a story. There must be this or that. There must be this thing or that thing down the line. So yeah, it's a completely normal thing. And meditation is a completely normal thing, and all of it is just very normal. And I think maybe that's why some people aren't really excited about it, because they want something abnormal. They want something wild.
A peak
They want to
experience
see
of some
naming.
kind. Yeah.
Yeah, they want a peak experience. They're like, they need a fucking reptile thing with beams of light and surgical equipment cutting cubes out of their psyche and throwing it into some vortex and like shining the light on them and healing them up. They want that right now, and that's an okay thing to want.
Have you read that book, Spiritual Enlightenment by Jed McKenna?
No.
It's such a good book. Highly recommend that one.
Well,
I'll have to check it out.
It's quite anti any religious approach, basically. It's about how to rip the Band-Aid off as quickly as possible, even if it hurts like hell.
Yeah, he's quite harsh through that book. It's how do you describe that?
It's about deconstructing the nature of your mind by using the mind itself. Kind of like using your own hands to rip off all of the skin off of your bones. It's quite gruesome the way that he describes it, and it's
Wow.
a lot of people have criticized him for being so extreme, and I think he doesn't even reveal his own name. I'm pretty sure he goes by pseudonym.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to
He's
avoid
secret.
the guru thing.
Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah, that's good. That's really good. You got to watch out, right, when you're him.
Yeah, I really love that book, though.
Because you don't want a lot of people following you around, ripping their skin off. It'd be embarrassing. Also, a lot of cleanup.
Yeah. Terrible mess. A lot of bleach.
Band-Aids. Are you sure he's not selling Band-Aids? Because like if I were my thing up a Band-Aid, every book should have a Band-Aid in the back of it for after you rip your skin off.
Duncan.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of ways. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, can you continue? I was just gonna end it.
Yeah, that's a better thing to do. Yeah, that's a good thing to do. Wow, wait, before you end it though, what are those seats you guys are in? What the fuck are those, man?
Oh,
are
yeah.
you sponsored by that?
No, we're not.
No.
We just find them comfortable.
They're like
awesome.
It's a really gaming. They're gaming chairs.
They recline.
Do they vibrate?
Back, so I just go way back and watch movies.
Woo, yeah. Do they vibrate?
No.
I wish. No.
Oh, then I don't want them.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you could get vibrating ones, but these are just gaming chairs.
No, see, that's an example of my fucking bullshit. It's like, no, I'm not happy with a chair that just leans back and looks like you're flying a spaceship. I need it to vibrate, actually. Then it's a good chair. My chair doesn't vibrate, but my chair doesn't look cool like your chairs do. Congratulations, y'all. Look at what you've done. Look at your beautiful studio and how organized all this is. And I'm so happy for you. And I'm so excited that you guys are out there and doing this wonderful, wonderful show. How great. What an honor that you have allowed me to be on this twice.
Are you
so
kidding?
much.
No, it's the other way around. Honored that you would join us on this. Very
wow.
cool.
Well, we're all honored, and I can't wait to hopefully chat with you all again soon.
Yep. Cool. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
All right, that was our interview with Duncan Trussell. You can find all the show notes, links, and resources at futurethinkers.org/83 or under the video if you're watching on YouTube.
And if you want to stay up to date with our latest episodes, blog posts, or news from Future Thinkers, join our mailing list at futurethinkers.org/mailing list. To meet like-minded people, join our Future Thinkers Discord community. Go to futurethinkers.org/discord. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified of new videos. You can also follow us on social media to stay connected. If you'd like to get a t-shirt like the new Make America Think Again, go to futurethinkers.org/store. If you like what we do and you want to help us make more podcasts and videos, consider donating or becoming a patron at futurethinkers.org/support. Also visit our sponsor Qualia and use the coupon code FUTURE to get 10% off your purchase.
This episode is brought to you by Qualia, a nootropic supplement that helps support mental performance and mood. To get 10% off, use the code FUTURE at checkout. And to learn more about neurohacking, visit futurethinkers.org/neuro.